अगर फिरदौस भर रूह जमीन अस्त हमें आस्त हो हमें आस्त हो हमें आस्त. This is really the very beautiful sentences that used by Jahangir, the fourth Mughal emperor. Once upon a time he said, like, if there is a heaven on earth, it is here, and it is here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our program Natural Civilization. It's our 10th episode in Natural Civilization at Natural TV. Today we will talk on Kashmir issue. As we use the sentence and read the sentence, the beautiful sentence, but the reality is not that much beautiful. And we will see what is going on in there, what is happening in there, and what was happened and what will happen. To talk on this issue, we have Mr. Riaz. He is the researcher and research scholar and working in Istanbul Sabahuddin Jaim University as a PhD researcher. Welcome to our program, Mr. Riaz.
Thank you very much.
As you are Kashmir, as a Kashmiri citizen and also Kashmir, to talk on the Kashmir issue, the conflict and the crisis, and also as I talk the heaven of the world, to talk on this issue, I'm sure like our audience and viewers will get very important issues, accordingly your views, accordingly your opinions. I'm really appreciating you to come to our program, and welcome to our program, and thank you so much for to coming our program. Mr. Riaz, as we know, there's the current situation, there's in Kashmir, especially after withdrawal of Indian administration. I mean, Indian current BJP administration, they withdrew the 370 and Article 35A. It shows like that there's reality, and it's very much important to know the reality of Kashmir and also the people of Kashmir. But before going to there, this I believe like our viewers, they need to know this the historical background of Kashmir, especially the roots of civilization and cultural roots of Kashmir. And I would like to ask you, like, if you could kind of tell us like how did Kashmiris get there?
Thank you very much, Mr. Islam, for giving this opportunity to talk about Kashmir, from where I come. And before that, I would just like to make a clarification. I am a student at Sabahuddin Jaim University in Istanbul, where at Center for Islam and Global Affairs, I am a research associate and pursuing PhD in political science and international relations. Before coming to Turkey, I was a news reporter in Kashmir.
So you are also a journalist?
Well, in Kashmir I was working as a news reporter. To know the current situation, I mean, it is 43rd day in a row that there is complete communication blockade in Indian administered Kashmir, in Jammu Kashmir right now. There is no internet, there is no phone lines are working. There is restrictions are placed, although Indian government has claimed that restrictions have been eased to a large extent, but the reports which come out from the region say that most of businesses are closed. So before we basically detail the current situation, we need to go back and see the genesis of the crisis which Kashmir is facing right now. It is not just if you go back to 1947 when partition happened and India and Pakistan were born as independent nations, Kashmir then was part of the larger British Empire which ruled the Indian subcontinent. But before this landmark year 1947, when the two independent nations came into being, Kashmiris felt disempowered and disempowered since 1586. Until 1586, Kashmir was ruled by an indigenous ruler, Yusuf Shahid Chak, who was invited by the then great Mughal Emperor Akbar the Great to Delhi, the then Delhi, and as a state guest, but was subsequently arrested and Mughals took over Kashmir. So then he dies there, but what Kashmiris did is they resisted this overthrow of their indigenous ruler by the Mughal emperor. So from Mughals, Kashmir went in. It was an independent state ruled by Yusuf Shahid Sak. So from Mughals, then they ruled for some time. From there, it went into the hands of Afghans when Afghans tried to conquer parts of the then Indian subcontinent. So from Afghans, it went into the hands of Sikhs, and from Sikhs, it went into the hands of British Empire.
I just want for our audience, like Sikhs is also the one of the, I mean, like very larger community, religious community in India.
Yes, so there was a Sikh empire as well, which ruled in majority in Punjab region of India and Pakistan, which we see today. So from that, what happened in basically coming directly now to 1846, it's a long history. Coming now directly to 1846, Kashmir and the Jammu region, there was a family in Jammu part of this whole region, this whole territory, which is of almost 82,000 square kilometers. They were Dogras, a clan in Hindus in the region. So what they did is they had a very strong family, strong clan, which also conquered some parts in the Jammu region and made it part of Kashmir. What they did is they betrayed Sikhs, the Sikh empire, and joined British. So what happens is British Empire sells Kashmir to Dogras, to Gulab Singh. Gulab Singh was the ruler. What they did is they sell it for 75 lakh Nanak Shahi. Nanak Shahi was currency used by the Sikh empire. They sold out this whole territory along with its people and the resources for 7,500,000 Nanak Shahi plus a horse and yearly some shawls, because Kashmiri shawls are very famous. So they would on yearly basis send them a horse, some a dozen shawls and something like that. So from 1846, this deed is called Treaty of Amritsar, and I believe our readers, our listeners know about poet of the East, Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal. When he laments this deed, he says that, see how cheap Kashmiris were sold out. Just by 7,500,000, our lives, our properties, everything was sold by the then colonial power, British Empire, to Dogras. From 1846, from this deed of Treaty of Amritsar to 1947, this Dogra family, this clan, they ruled Kashmir. And with that, what they did is Kashmir, the Kashmir Valley, they joined some parts in Jammu region with it, and then the independent states of Gilgit and Baltistan as well. So there were three rulers: Gulab Singh, Rambir Singh, then Hari Singh. Meanwhile, but the thing is that the region was Muslim majority. The rulers were Hindus. Mridu Rai is a professor in a Presidency College, Kolkata now. She has written a very fantastic book, Hindu Rulers, Muslim Subjects. She details the agency of resistance, how it developed in Kashmir, and how Muslims were persecuted and they were oppressed, and what they did is they did not have the rights which were supposed to be given to them, and they were discriminated against. And meanwhile, in 1931, for the first time, an organized resistance against this autocracy was held.
That's the Durga family.
Against the Dogra rule. So on 13th of July, 1931, almost 21 Kashmiris are shot dead in Srinagar. Srinagar is the summer capital of Kashmir. Until August 5, Kashmir, it's called Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu is one of the districts of Kashmir region. So Dogras, when they added this part to Kashmir, they added this to the name of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. So Jammu and Kashmir had two capitals, one for summer, one for winters. So because in Valley, Kashmir Valley, which is a Muslim majority, it is very cold like Ankara or Istanbul in winters. So the ruler, the autocrats, this Dogra family, they would shift their bureaucracy, their administration to the Jammu part, because it remains somewhat okay, 20 degrees, 15 to 20 degrees in between that. So they kept two capitals. So what happens is, what I'm saying is that in Srinagar, 21 Muslims were shot dead in 1931 on 13th of July. Why? Because the uprising, the rebellion triggered against the Dogras led to trial of one great leader, Abdul Qadir. There are many accounts who Abdul Qadir was. Some say he was from the northern parts of Pakistan, some say Afghanistan, some say he was working as a chef in one of the houseboats. Houseboats is a home-like structure which floats in rivers and in lakes. In Kashmir we have beautiful lake, Dal Lake. So he was working as a chef with a British officer. So what he does is, he comes out to a public meeting and goes to the stage and tells the people, this is the time to stand up against oppression and bring down this wall of anxiety, coloniality, autocracy, brick by brick. So then the Dogras, this Hari Singh, he jails him. He jails him for inciting, quote unquote, inciting people. On 13th of July, he is taken for trial. So hundreds of thousands of Kashmiris take out streets to be witness to the trial. And in the meanwhile, the Dogra autocrat, he orders his troops, who are dominantly Hindu, to open fire. And it is the first 21 Muslims are shot dead. So from 31, what happens is then organized direction is given to the rights movement which Kashmiris wanted, and this lays to the foundation of what is called as Muslim Conference, Jammu and Kashmir Muslim Conference. Under this banner, all people come and they raise issues with the autocrat, that we want the equal rights, we want freedoms, everything. I mean, there was bond labor. Dogra
so it's the first, we can say that it was the first step, like for Kashmiri people to think about their personal rights, I mean individual rights, also for the freedom, as
of course,
they remember their historical background. Because if some of the times, in a literature, they try to miss the prehistorical time of Kashmir. That's once upon a Kashmir was independent and how the process was happened.
Exactly. So what happens is of course, is a first stone to the first step towards the realizing the rights, the basic rights. So from then comes another landmark year, which is 1947. What happens basically in 1947 is when British leaves Indian subcontinent due to the persistent struggle by people of the then Indian subcontinent to realize their freedom. All of us are aware how Pakistan, what was the partition plan and why it came into being. So of the British India had over 550 princely states which were independently ruled by their rulers. So Kashmir was one of them, because we had, although Hindu Dogra, he was running it independently, but there was a British commissioner, so it came under that British Empire. So then what happens is, according to the partition plan, the Muslim majority regions go to Pakistan, the Hindu majority go to India, and three characteristics were drafted for the newly established nations. Because the region, this territory, what we call as Jammu and Kashmir, the united Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian administered part of Kashmir, the Pakistani administered part of Kashmir, and what is with China, the Aksai Chin. This whole region was under the control of Hari Singh, so the last Dogra Empire ruler. So there was a choice. Choice was simple, that since Pakistan knew that he will join us because his region is a Muslim majority,
It will be normal process. I just want to like, as they say, Indian subcontinent, when it was debated, it was under the genus, the two nation theory, Muslim and Hindu. Like, as I mean, our for our listeners, it will be also better. But you know, that's a very good thing that you started. But to include that question, and that's you are giving answer the things, the historical background, and also the how Kashmir was. We can say it's a rather Kashmir was occupied by not only historically but also in academically, in politically, in economically, in socially, in most of the perspective and aspects. By the way, like the most important question, why actually Kashmir is important, especially the economically or politically?
You need to, know the geographic importance of Kashmir, this whole Jammu and Kashmir. If I can show show our listeners and watchers, this is Jammu and Kashmir, the most northern tip of Indian map. This part is with Pakistan. This is Jammu and Kashmir, and this Aksai chain is with China. We need to know the geographic importance of this region. It was in older times. It was part of Silk Route, which formed one of the strongest commercial routes in ancient times. And right now, it borders. You see, it borders 3 regional nuclear powers. China on the topmost side, on the northern side, in south, India, 1.3 billion population, 3 trillion economy right now, and on the western front it is Pakistan, one of the nuclear powers and the only Muslim country with nuclear powers right now. So first thing's that. Second thing, it's very beautiful, as you quoted very well, that Jahangir, when Mughals came to Kashmir, Mughals came from mainland India, very hot plains, and when they came to Kashmir, it's cool. It is the breezes are so they touch your heart, not only your body. So it is not too hot, but it is too cold in winters. So he says, if there is a paradise on earth, this is this, this is this, this is this. So it is very beautiful. Second, it has huge natural resources. It has water. There is a potential of over 30,000 megawatt electricity can be generated from waters of Kashmir. So the geographic, the strategic importance of this region is important for all the 3 countries. And as we see now, why its importance has gone up is because of the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which also passes through one of the parts of the pre-1947 Jammu and Kashmir. That is what the importance of this. First, this is strategy.
But the thing is, like, you know, the importance and geographical importance is really and clearly shows how much importance from strategically and from empirically the importance of Kashmir. But again, the question, like, what actually claims of India, Pakistan, and also China to go in Kashmir, in which basis actually they just try to, if we say the administrate the Kashmir or occupy the Kashmir, in which basis?
Well, if you go by international vocabulary which United Nations uses to define Jammu and Kashmir, it is Indian administered part of Kashmir, it is Pakistan administered part of Kashmir. India says it is Jammu and Kashmir, integral part of India. Pakistan says it is a jugular vein of Pakistan. But yet, United Nations Security Council resolutions say that the final decision is yet to be taken, and it is to be taken by the people of the united Jammu and Kashmir. So why, the question is, why are 3 powers, right now mostly 2 powers involved in it? And before that, I just forgot to mention, it has borders with Central Asia as well. If this issue is solved once for all, for example, I suppose people of Kashmir tomorrow decide to join Indian Union fully, then India is connected to Central Asia directly through Jammu and Kashmir. So either way, Pakistan, it goes back to partition. When partition happened, the final, if you go by the partition plan, then the situation would have been completely different. What happens in 1947 is that the Dogra autocrat he signs a standstill agreement with Pakistan. Pakistan tells it, they knew that they will join us. So they tell Hari Singh that we will have, you join us, you will have an autonomous character. But then what happens is, in Punch is a region of Jammu and Kashmir, which is now divided between Indian and Pakistani sides of Kashmir. There is a rebellion against the Dogra autocrat. It was already brimming, as you already mentioned. It was already brimming, and this Dogra autocrat had already disarmed many Muslim soldiers in his forces. So what happens is, they call in, they request.
Just okay, finish our dear guest. Actually, we have to give a 1 minute break for our program, and again we will come our listeners. We believe like you will be with us and with our program. So, Mr. Riaz, you were talking about like the claims of India, Pakistan, and also China and Kashmir. You mentioned some issues from the previous, I mean, the history before the 1947. And could you explain again, like was the main basis of India and Pakistan, especially from the British rule to current India?
So in 1947, when Pakistan and India were born as independent nations, it was decided, basically the princely states which existed under British India, they decided which way to join, and it also depended on the characteristics of their population, because since it was based on religion, that the Muslim majority regions would become now Pakistan and the Hindu majority become India. So on Jammu and Kashmir, the same rule applied. But what happens is that then autocrat, who was not a popular leader of Jammu and Kashmir, who was an autocrat, a dictator, and was oppressing people, and there was already a rebellion going against him. He decides to join India. Why? Join India. Although before that, he had a standstill agreement with Pakistan on certain conditions. In Punch, what happens? Punch is a region. It is this geographically, his terrain is hilly. Its terrain is hilly. So there was a rebellion against this autocrat, and they invite people from northwest frontier parts of Pakistan, tribals, to help them. So what happens then is, they fight this Dogra autocrat, who invites Hindu and Sikh forces from neighboring parts, Punjab, to fight the rebellion in Jammu and Kashmir. But the people in Punch, they succeed in taking away a part of Kashmir, which then becomes Pakistan administration.
So those rebellions who took already, you already mentioned the success. So they announced it as like independent, or they said no, we will go to be a part of the future Pakistani state. Or
it is, they announced an independent government. So, but then what happens is the legislature then passes a resolution to merge with Pakistan. But what happens is that India goes to UN, tells United Nations, the Prime Minister of India, the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, his government goes to United Nations, tells the United Nations Security Council that, see, we are yet 3 months old, and Pakistan has launched a war, an attack on Kashmir, which should be halted, and they should be told to go back. This tribal, they call it tribal invasion, but Dr. Christopher Seneden, he junks this claim that this was not an invasion. It was the people of Punch who had invited them. So then what United Nations Security Council did is, from January 1st, 1948, there are over a dozen resolutions passed by it from time to time. They say both the parties will maintain status quo. Hari Singh, when this Punch rebellion happens, he goes into self-exile into India and asks for military help. from Nehru government. So on 27th of October, India flies its forces into Srinagar to push back the tribals. So, but it was a temporary arrangement, a temporary help. But what happens is that, and he signs, government of India agrees, okay, but we cannot send in our forces until we have an agreement. So then, quote unquote, accession with India is signed. But there are three. It was conditional in the sense that government of India tells autocrat Hari Singh that we will have only Indian government will have influence over three issues. Rest, the government of Jammu and Kashmir will be autonomous. Foreign affairs, defense and communications will be with the center, the government of India, the federal government of India. Rest, you will manage it. And the then undisputedly popular leader of Kashmir, rather South Asia, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah, he becomes the Prime Minister of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. And son of Hari Singh, Dr. Karan Singh, becomes first Sadr-e Riyasat, Sadr is president in English, of Jammu and Kashmir. And now begins what is this Article 370. In Indian Constitution, what they say is when they give us this autonomous status,
no, again, because like we are going to again miss these things upon Pakistan's claims and also Chinese claims, because we will ask these things, the questions, the Indian claims, and you already clearly say it. But what about the Pakistan claims side, and also the Chinese claims?
So what this was the Pakistani side. So after India went to United Nations. Pakistan was also asked to draw back its forces. India was also to draw back its forces. So, but what happens is, since Azad Kashmir had already become an independent Kashmir under Pakistan's control, so status quo was maintained. So Pakistan had its forces until Udi on their side is a part, the line of control which we call. It's not an international border, but it divides Kashmir into two. So Pakistan maintains control over now the Azad Kashmir, which people from Punch, they did it, and China was not in the picture, rather is not in the picture until 1962 when they conquered this Aksai Chin in its war with India, Sino-India War of 1962. So what happens is United Nations says that we will have the future of Kashmir decided by its own people by a popular, free and fair plebiscite. When will that happen? When normalcy is restored in the region. But unfortunately, it has been more than 73 years that the normalcy has not been
established, unfortunately. But anyway, you know, this that's what you are going to actually tell, like the current situation we see, this internal security situation, especially after Indian government, I mean current BJP administration, they withdraw 370 and also the Article 35A. So what will be the impacts and also the effects on Kashmiri people and also the value of Kashmir, especially the Jammu Kashmir and the capitals like Srinagar or the whole area? Even I just want to tell you, like after the Pulwama attack and this incident, it shows actually the BJP government to give much more priority to that area. Even the last election, the Modi government, they also give so much priority in so many their political area, like they were going to take control of Kashmir. So how do you see those initiatives and those steps by the Indian current administration?
Exactly. Now we come to Article 370, what this all crisis which has now renewed since August 5. When now accession was done, India incorporated Article 370 in its constitution. It says that Jammu and Kashmir becomes part of India under certain category. This article then lays foundation for the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir and its own laws. Jammu and Kashmir will have a state assembly which is empowered to frame its own laws. It is empowered to define who becomes the citizen of Jammu and Kashmir. It has the power to disallow non-Kashmiris to settle in the region. Besides other, it will have its own flag, all these things. So essentially, as I said, that it would be only on three affairs, three areas: foreign policy, defense, and communications, that the union government will have its.
I mean, Indian central administration will control this.
So, but over the period of time, when Sheikh Ahmad Abdullah, as I mentioned, he's a Muslim Kashmiri politician.
But the things you already mentioned, that the Kashmir people, they have a prime minister, they have a president, they have a own flag, they have I mean, they have individuality.
Autonomous.
What Indian constitution gives them even. So, do you think that those things were maintained since 1947 to till now?
Yes, that is what happened. So we will have a separate constitution as well. But over since 1954, there were attacks on the special states of Jammu and Kashmir. These things were slowly eroded. First in 1954, through a presidential order, basically what Indian constitution says, what the law says is, the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly, local provincial assembly, if it gives consent to the President of India that we want this thing, then the President of India signs an order and issues that. So, but what happened, what we saw on August 5 as well, there was no popular, quote unquote, although elections have been disputed for long in Kashmir, there was no popular government. So who gave that consent? Besides a popular government, the government of India appoints its own person who is called governor. It's in all states of provinces of India. So likewise, we have a governor.
This is a constitutional procedures or normal procedures.
It's a constitutional procedure that if you want to remove any provision, special provision, the local provincial assembly, the people elected by the people of Kashmir, will give you the consent. When they give the consent, they pass that resolution in the local assembly, that goes to the president only, then it happens. So what happens is then 1947, this Article 370, but it starts eroding. Since 1954 until now, it has more than 50 times their changes have happened. Prime Minister post was changed into Chief Minister in 1975. Supreme Court of India's jurisdiction was extended to Jammu and Kashmir in 1954. Likewise, there are many, there are many areas, lists, concurrent list, central list, union list, and the state list. Three union current, like the areas where central government will have its power, jurisdiction, the provincial government will have its jurisdiction, and the concurrent list where both the government will have its jurisdiction. So until August 5, many jurisdictions jurisdiction of the central government were extended to Jammu and Kashmir. So what I am saying is that the special status of Jammu and Kashmir was eroded slowly. But what happens on August 5 is that before August 5, there is a build-up. Confusion is created among the masses. Tourists, because Kashmir is a very beautiful place, tourists are asked to leave Kashmir as soon as possible. And there is now an annual yatra, a Hindu yatra, which has over the past some time seen heavy militarization as well. They are yatra which is held in mountains of Kashmir. They are told to leave Kashmir as soon as possible. I mean, it was unprecedented that leave Kashmir by tomorrow. It is before August 5 what happens. Reported that I think for the first time officially they said that it was over 1 million Indian forces in Kashmir now manning every street of Kashmir. So on August 4, around 12 in the night Kashmir time, all means of communication are shut. There is complete,
including this like social media. Internet.
There is the cell phone is not working. The landlines, they are not working. Internet is not working. Nothing. What is happening in this room, people do not know on the other side of the wall what is happening there. So there is first.
Is it still continuing?
There is, of course, communication blockade is still there, although the government claims that they have restored 80,000 landline phones, but mostly now people do not use landline phones, they are used by the government. So what happens on August 5/11 in the morning, according to Indian Standard Time, the Interior Minister of India, Amit Shah, stands up in the Parliament of India and says, through this presidential order, we have removed special provisions granted under Article 370 to Jammu and Kashmir. We have scrapped all. First, yani now Jammu and Kashmir is like any other province of India. First thing is that he then tables a bill in the Rajya Sabha and says that the Jammu and Kashmir state is now divided into two smaller union territories. To understand what union territory is, we need to just look at Indian Federation. India until August 5 was a country of 29 provinces. In India, we call them, they call them states. Indian 29 states formed Indian Union. Besides 29 provinces, there are 7 union territories. These union territories are directly managed by the central government. Union territory, yani territory of the union. A few have local assemblies as well. The central government has direct jurisdiction over the law and order, the security situation of that. So like Delhi, New Delhi is the capital of India. It is also a union territory, although it has its own local assembly and chief minister as well. Likewise, there is Chandigarh, it's also a union territory. Then we have Lakshadweep Islands, Nicobar Islands. It's also a... So what they did is, it's always a wish of a union territory to become a state. But what, instead of giving more powers, what they did is they broke it down into 2 union territories. So then now these union territories...
which 2 union territories?
Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Ladakh is basically, we call it cold desert. It's a huge mass of land, but very scant population.
However, I just want to, one thing I think like I should mention here, this Indian government, they, if we see, I mean like from some media argument, especially from Indian media industry, they argues like this way, India lost so much, I mean, for Kashmir to, to administrate Kashmir, to control the Kashmir. They lost their soldiers. They lost their. They have fallen so many problems and crises to control the Kashmir. But in one hand, they have also so much experience to control the land, especially in India they have so many problems they are faced in previous, like in Punjab, in Assam, in Arunachal, so many terror problem or those kind of problem. And in some media they argues like that Indians defense or also Indian administration, they have experience to control those kind of issues. So in Kashmir they are facing also the same problem. So they think they can control the separatist movement, or who are trying to make the Azad Kashmir or the Indian, not Azad Kashmir, I mean the Indian administration Kashmir to include with Pakistan or independent Kashmir, they can control it. And that's the way they are taking this resolution or to withdraw the special status. How do you argue those things?
Basically, 2 reasons were given to justify this move which the current government in India took. One, that they want to economically empower Kashmiris. Second, that they want to fight the separatism in the region. The issue is that the move it had a huge backlash in international arena. Even United Nations said that status quo should be maintained on Kashmir. United Nations Security Council held its first meeting on Kashmir in last 50 years on August 16. So holding these meetings, United Nations speaking on the issue itself makes its nature very not normal, a disputed kind of a thing. So while we say that many India, of course, as I said that the report, it is Kashmir is the most militarized zone in the region. India is a 3rd largest army in the world. It maintains a heavy presence in Kashmir, and it has to run that affair. That, of course, billions go into that. Second, Kashmir, when in 89, Kashmiris took up arms. There was an election in 1987 that was massively rigged, and in 1987, Kashmiris picked up arms against Western rule. They crossed the line of control which divides Kashmir into Pakistan.
But this is the Indian government administration, they are always telling like that those people who want independence and separatism, they are getting help from Pakistan, and they are not the peoples of Kashmir, they want to live with India. Even also there are Hindu people, and they have also some though it's a nationalist thought, but there are also Hindu places, I mean very worshipping places, old places, and that's why it's very much important for India.
That's why basically there is a demand by people of Kashmir. If we go by since 2008, 2010 and 2016, there is a popular demand by Kashmiris that let us go to United Nations resolutions which call for right to self-determination, to hold a referendum. If people of Kashmir, if people of United Jammu and Kashmir want to remain with India, let us do that by a popular referendum held under auspices of a third country or United Nations.
But that's the reason, like some here, especially so many articles in the academic literature say what India is doing now, it's actually what Israel did with the Palestinians.
Exactly, that is the fear of what is the fear. This Article 335A, what it did is it defined who is the resident of Jammu and Kashmir. It did not allow outsiders, I mean non-JK residents to settle in Kashmir. It disallowed to them to buy land in Kashmir. It disallowed to them to get citizenship in Kashmir. What is the fear? Fear is that since we have a particular identity and the future of the territory is yet to be decided, the people fear that once these provisions have been removed, there will be attempts to settle non-Kashmiris in our land, and if and when the plebiscite is held, the referendum is held, if and when in future, maybe the outcome of that referendum will be different, not according to what should have happened when you settle non-Kashmiris there. So that is the fear, that by scrapping these special provisions which safeguarded our identity, that has been attacked, and now from people from other parts of India will come and be my neighbors tomorrow. We Kashmiris, I mean, have been too much hospitable, they have been welcoming people, but when it attacks, questions their identity, they try to safeguard that.
So, Mr. Riaz, literally our time is very limited and it's almost going finished. As I understand from your talks and from your academic and also your practical, as you are Kashmiri, it's very clear like this, as a people of, as you are people of the Kashmir, and they want actually a referendum and the people's opinion, and it will be the best solution for Kashmir, and that they will understand, they will fix their...
That's what people want, a referendum in both parts of Kashmir.
And we believe also those things, and we want actually peaceful Kashmir by any means or by what means. And thank you so much for coming to our program, National Civilization Program, to talk on this issue. And I seriously and I really believe this Kashmir issue, we need to make another one more episode because there is a lot of questions still. I myself and also our listeners want to know about Kashmir. And again, thank you so much to come to our program, and thank you our listeners to be with us, and we believe you will be with us in our next program in Natural Civilization at Natural TV.